Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to my December 2020 wrap up. So soon to follow will be my 2020 year-end wrap up, but today we are just talking about December, which was still a really great month. Hold on one second. Bothers me to not have some Claire and Jamie in my background. Like, I either need the picture back there or them there. I don't know what it is. I'm a stan, everybody. I'm a stan. First off, before we dive in, though, we do have a new channel member to welcome, and that is my friend Avery from Avery Loves Books. She joined at the dedicated diva level, and it just touched my heart so much. Whenever another creator becomes a channel member, it's just that like extra nudge. Like, you all mean so much to me, you channel members, I love you. But someone else who's also worrying about their own channel and like how that goes, it always makes me feel a little extra love in here. So thank you so much for joining, Avery. I feel very supported and loved by you. But you all, you're here for my December wrap up. So let us go ahead and get there. It was another great month for me. We'll start off with the stats at the top of it, and then as always we'll go over my 5 like favorite reads, or this month it's going to be like memorable because, as I have said multiple times in multiple videos now, the month of December I reread my favorite books. So like these ones here and a couple, so they were my favorite reads because I was rereading my favorite. But I feel like at this point you've heard me talk about this book so much. You've heard many creators talk about this book so much that there's not a lot new I can add to the mountains of praise I've already heaped on those. So instead I'm going to talk about a couple that like were still 5 stars and were faves. And if I hadn't been rereading my favorite books this month, they would be my faves, that kind of thing. As well as a couple books that, because there won't be a final week of the year like weekly wrap, I want to talk about a couple of my favorite books I read in just the last couple days, because there's going to be a little gap between what got read at the end of December and then what's going to be included in January. Wow, a storm's starting. I'm glad that I went to get my mail already because now it's really blowing out there. And so, yeah, there's going to be this like little gap. And so the next time I do a weekly wrap up, it will be just like January reads, maybe a couple that I read, because today I'm filming this as the 29th. So there's still 2 days left. But because of how I film, this is what's happening. Anyway, enough of that at the beginning. Let us get into the stats for December. So this was really fun. So I read 53 books. Wouldn't be a Jen video if I wasn't obsessing over my hair in the video. Okay. I read 53 books, which was 17,050 pages, which averaged to about 550 a day, which is awesome. Like, wowza. These books were over 4 different forms. We had 4 arcs that I read. We had 24 ebooks, 17 audiobooks, and 23 physical books. As always, some of those overlap because quite a few of the books that I read physically, I will also get the audio to pair with them if it's available to me, because I enjoy consuming audiobooks quite a lot. The genres of these books were 20 historicals. As you can tell, there is quite a stack of the historicals happening. 23 contemporary books, 1 YA fantasy, 1 fantasy romance, 4 erotic romance, 1 thriller, and 3 paranormal romance. So that was quite the variety of books that we read. I think it's funny because I get a couple comments. It's from a few specific people, and I'm not calling them out. I just mean there's a few specific people that like think I don't read contemporary anymore and are always like, would you please do contemporary recs? And to be fair, with Bridgerton coming out and stuff, there have been a lot of historical romance videos coming out because it's getting its new life again, and I'm very excited about that. But I do read an equal amount of fantasy and contemporary. It's just often the books that like hit me the hardest are historical romance, because they have a little edge of fantasy to them, and I really like that. So I just want to be clear, I mean, I will try my best to have more contemporary recs coming in the new year after this like push of Bridgerton stuff is done. But historical romance is something that's very near and dear to me, and it is always going to be a significant part of my reading. I mean, if you'll notice, in 2021, the TBR videos I make are mostly going to focus around historical romance, and then contemporary is what I pick up when I need a break. Sometimes it goes the other way. Sometimes I binge a really heavy contemporary series, and then I will read historicals as a break, but I'm pretty much always in the mood for a historical, because there's some kind of historical that works for me. So I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to change my reading style or what I read, but I can try to change what I talk about. Anyway, that was a mini rant, but I'd gotten a comment about it, and I know it was meant in like good form, but I was like, I read a lot of contemporary, guys. It's a pretty even split, as you'll see when I do my year-end stats, which that video will be coming up soon. It was a pretty even split. Okay, and then the ratings for these books, I had 1 DNF, 2 2.5 stars, 6 3 stars, and then I had 14 4 stars, 13 4.5 stars, and 17 5 stars, which is not a surprise since most of those 5 stars were the books that I reread, and so they were going to be 5 stars. Coming soon, starting in January wrap-up, we will have the 6th star initiated. Hopefully I have some 6-star reads. I'm very excited for that to happen. As I talked about in my goal video and then my new rating system video that I did put out, any book that is a 5-star in the new year will go through an extra rating process that I've, coined myself. And if it hits like certain thresholds for how I feel about it, it will become a 6-star book, which means it's a favorite of the year. And it's just to help me when we get to the end of the year, because this year I had 216 5-star books. It ended up being more than that. And it was hard to pick my favorites. So that's how we're going to do it. But that's really great. I love that most all of this was above 4-star. It was a very good month. And I was purposely reading a lot of things for enjoyment. I always read things for enjoyment. Let's be honest. I never force myself through something I don't want to be forced through. But specifically this month, I was really easy to myself. Like, I did pretty good with my TBR because my TBR was mostly rereading my faves. But even out of my faves, like, there was some that didn't make it onto my final list because I was like, I don't want to. Because I don't want to reread them, so I didn't make myself do it, because I don't do that. But let's go ahead and talk about some that I wanted to be on this faves list. So the first one I want to mention, I have talked about quite a bit, because I read it near the beginning of the month. I got it as a present, and so then I actually made a video. Well, I actually made the video before I got given the book, which is funny. But it is Duke I'd Like to F, and it is by Sierra Simone, Joanna Shoup, Ava Lee, Nicola Davison, and Adriana Herrera. And this is an anthology about sexy dukes. And this book came to me at the perfect time. I was putting off reading it because I don't usually like anthologies, especially when they're by different authors, because I just feel like short story, like a novella, doesn't give me what I want when it's like new characters. So I generally will read novellas if it's about already established characters to me, or it's an author doing a Christmas book or something like that where I already know the characters of these people before I'm meeting them. Because to me, it's just very hard to rate a novella 5 stars because you don't get to do the character development that I want to happen. However, this one is, I've made a joke about it in another video. This is basically meant to be a one-handed read, which is really, which is really inconvenient because it's very large. So it's difficult to do. But this is 5 stories that are completely sexy, steamy, and delicious. My favorite one was the Ava Lee one, which is about a young duke who's coming back after his father has died, which would be why he's a young duke. And the governess, he had the hots for her when he was a teen, and he hoped that she would still be around when he came back, and she's still the governess for his younger sister. She was never his governess because he was already a teenager and like had tutors and stuff, but he was in proximity with her and he had the hots for her. And now it's like 5 years later and he's 22. I think she's almost 30. And when he comes back, he kind of has the mission of, he really wants to have sex with her. But now there's a power dynamic in the other direction, where before she was a teacher, well, now he is her employer. And so he doesn't want to pressure her into anything, but he's really got the hots for her. And so that one was called An Education in Pleasure. And I feel like she does address the power dynamics really great. I mean, Ava Lee, that is one thing the woman knows how to do. I've read quite a few of her books at this point, and that is definitely something she's good at. It was great. Another favorite is the Sierra Simone. This one is a possible father-in-law, or a possible uncle-in-law, and she has the hots for him. And then, what's the other good one? Gosh, they were all so good. The Joanna Shoup one, yes, that one is a father's best friend, and that was sex. So this is just, it is sexy, dirty deliciousness, and altogether it added up to a delightful break from reality, and I loved it. Crystal gave this to me. Thank you, Crystal. You are my bestie forever. And it was so much fun. And those of you who've been like, maybe you were trying to get through all the Christmas novellas and stuff you were reading, pick this puppy up because it's worth your time. Then, man, this was like hard to pick one from this series. But, so I also have a video coming out soon-ish that is a reading vlog for the Bareknuckle Bastards series. So if you don't know, I have a book club with my friend Crystal, who I just mentioned, and it's called the Rake Appreciation Society. And in the month of February, we are going to be reading the Rogues and Scoundrels, or something like that, series by Sarah MacLean. And then Sarah MacLean is going to be in a book club with us. Well, we're going to have book club one night, and then we're going to have an author interview the next night with her, because it's Crystal's dream realized, and I'm very, very excited for her to get to talk with Sarah MacLean. But I want to read all of her other books except that trilogy until it's time for us to read it. And so the Bareknuckle Bastards had to happen. I've heard so much hype for this series, and I really did enjoy it. Something about it, though, is it does get a little bit cerebral at points, but I still had to pick Daring and the Duke to share because I am a Ewan stan, and I'll tell you the facts. I was a stan of his all the way through, and I know, there are certain spoilers out, and I didn't know the specifics of what he done and what was so bad, but I had a notion without ever hearing other people say it. So, and particularly after having read like another series by her, she lays her seeds quite well. Like, she sews it in there good. At some points it's even a little heavy-handed, but it's still brilliant. It's brilliant. This one was one of the sexiest because Crystal promised me that this one would be the sexiest. It was. As well as Ewan just tore my heart out, okay? And he started to tear my heart out in the second one when there's a particular scene, which I'm not going to spoil. You'll get to see my reactions to all of it when this reading vlog comes out. A full spoiler reading vlog, which will be out hopefully the first week of January. Like, the first full week. There's a lot of Bridgerton content happening right now, and so I'm waiting for that stuff to settle and everything. But this Grace is amazing, but I'll tell you, I was actually in this for Ewan because Grace, she didn't bother me, but there was things about the choices she made and the assumptions she made that I was like, you are jumping to very high conclusions about someone and not trusting him. And I understand it looked bad, but one of my pet peeves in a person, not in a story, because in a story, it works as a really good element of a story. Like, it works. But when you have a couple that they have such a deep bond and have made such promises to each other, and then that person acts in a way that's 180 degrees away from that with no prompting, like it hasn't been leading to anything, it just happens. I dislike when all that love just immediately turns to hate. And it's great in a story, but when it happens, I also am like, I understand how the person who was making the sacrifice and who had to make that change would feel betrayed, that his loved ones, even though he wants them to believe him, that they immediately believe him. Like, it hurts. It hurts. And so when we've been seeing him be the Mad Duke for for these last 2 books, I was like, there is a bigger explanation here. So no spoilers what it is. If you read the series, you know. And so for me, that's where my stance is that Ewan was my favorite hero and Hattie was my favorite heroine. But this book brings it all to culmination beautifully, and I really, really enjoyed the reading experience because Sarah paints a great picture, and this trilogy is one, and I completely stand by this. You cannot just pick up this book and start here. People want to say that with historical romance you can do that, and for the most part you can in a lot of things. Like I do it. But you would not get the same experience and the same fulfillment out of this book if you just start with this one. And for me, if you had just read this one, it would be the difference between possibly even a 3-star and a 5-star. Because Sarah MacLean's writing is really great, but because parts of Grace are really like frustrating to me, it's only because I've seen how she acted before that I was like, Grace, I understand. Even though you're making me angry, I understand. So anyway, those are my thoughts. This is great. It was one of my favorite reads this month, obviously. But that's my thoughts, and you'll see that more clearly in the reading review about how I feel. And I did cry a couple times because, shocker, I cry about everything. Then I also want to talk about Wolf Gone Wild real quick. This was me finally starting a Juliette Cross book. This is a paranormal contemporary romance, and I've said this in a few videos at this point. I feel like this would be a really good intro to paranormal romance for you. Like if you aren't sure if you would want to see witches and werewolves and vampires and all that stuff, this is a great place to start because though the paranormal parts of it are integral to the plot, like that's, you know, it's a wolf and he's having problems with his alpha, which is his wolf self and all those things, it is so meaningful because it is also like rooted so much in pop culture, and there is Raylo conversations in here, and Juliette Cross just brings such fun humor to some dark situations. So some of the paranormals I love so well, like IAD and Naylani Singh's Side Change, like they are heavy. Like they are heavy. And she has a way of bringing a levity to this. And so Don't Hex and Drive, which I also read right after I read this, that one definitely has a darker plot, but still finds levity as well. Where this one is, because it's only affecting the hero, like he's the one stuck in, like his alpha can't come out. It doesn't, and what's happening to him is horrible, but also because Alpha is like, he's a great wolf. Like, even though he has his priorities are fucking and fighting, he's a great wolf. Like, he's not evil. So it's not like he's being possessed by, you know, it's not like Mateo's being possessed by this evil thing. It's just that the balance between him and his wolf has been offset because he's been hexed. Whereas in Don't Hex and Drive, like, there is an evil plot happening to some women, and like that can't be overshadowed, you know, it's a thing. So this was delightful. I have purchased one of her books from her other series, which I know is a darker paranormal, and I'm very excited about it. Also, I'm really glad I loved it because I'm at this point becoming pretty close friends with Jessin, and so I'm really glad that I like this book. Not that I would have fibbed if I didn't, but I was nervous. And after Crystal really, just because you want to like your friend's stuff, you want to like something that's close to them. And it doesn't have to do with wanting to like give a good review. It just means you want to find joy in something that was worked on by people you like. It's the same reason I hesitated to read Sarah MacLean books for so long, because I love that woman and all she brings to romance and all those things. But I was like, but what if I don't like her books? You know, it puts you in a weird spot as a reviewer who's also active in the community. It can get awkward. But I loved this, and I highly, highly recommend. The covers are gorgeous. I want the third book out so badly. The other couples that are set up, I want them so bad. So definitely check this out. All right, now we're taking a turn to a couple like darker books. But so these are 2 books that I've read in the last couple days. They were both like 4.5 stars for me, but I really love them. And the reason they're 4.5 stars, well, one of them is the HEA hasn't happened yet because it's a duet, which I'm okay with that. But this book was suggested to me by, I can't remember if it was Instagram or on YouTube, but it was called Follow the River by C.E. Reese, I think. C-E-U, Ricci. And number one, I am going to say it, the author, I don't know how to say this. The author is a bit high-handed in how she mentions trigger warnings, and I appreciate it because, like, I agree with her view, but also it was a bit high-handed, and as a reviewer, like, I'm going to tell you what these trigger warnings are, because there's no way that I wouldn't share them. But if you go, like, when you open this book, she's like, if you have any trigger warnings, please stay away from this book, but I'm not going to tell you the specific ones. Whereas I appreciated that. It left me also in kind of this place where I was expecting something like mind-boggling to happen when you won't tell me what the trigger warnings are, right? And I don't really have many. I have a few things that I like to know about them ahead of time, but they won't, if they were to surprise me, it won't cause a mental health issue or cause me to spiral, where some things, if they just surprise someone, could do that. But otherwise, if they knew about it ahead of time, they would be prepared and not be shocked. Like, this is a discussion I've had with friends who have trigger warnings, and they say, it's not that I can't read the book if it's in it, it's that I need to know, because you can't surprise people with mental health things. So Follow the River, this is a male-male college bully romance, and some bullying that involves some sexual dominance games, okay? And so this is also a sports romance, and this is about two guys. One of them is openly bisexual, and he is the quarterback for this team. And the other one is, I don't know what position he plays. If they're not a quarterback, I don't know. But he is so his name is Sarain or Karain, but his nickname is Rain. He gets mad that his nickname is Rain, but that's what River calls him. And then River is the QB. And River is, yes, openly bisexual, and Rain is very threatened by that. Number one, because he sees River, like, check him out sometimes, and also because Rain has been abused, and he was pretty, like, systematically groomed and went from molesting to assaulting to rape for many years, okay? He's went through this. So those are the trigger warnings for that. And here's the thing. It doesn't really feel like a spoiler because it's very clear to me, as someone who's read many books, as soon as we're in Rain's head and he's, like, going to therapy and the things that he finds disturbing and the trigger warning for homophobia, hardcore. Lots of slurs towards River, and River just kind of takes them because he can tell something bigger is going on, and also they have this antagonistic relationship, and River does poke at him in ways that if this person who I knew was homophobic or was frightened of homosexuals or bi or whatever, I wouldn't continue to poke in the hole. I would be like, okay, well, that was an inappropriate motion that I just did. But River continually, like, puts himself in front of Rain and is just pushing. There are times when Rain just will freak out and you can tell he's having trauma, culminating in there are lots of fights. Rain injures River almost really bad, and he's the QB. And so the coach decides to send them on a retreat over Christmas month. So apparently they're able to take a break that long of 5 weeks, and they go stay at the coach's mountain cabin. So this becomes forced proximity with someone who's homophobic and someone who's openly bisexual and someone who's openly bisexual and very attracted to this person who has sexual trauma. So it's just one of those dark romances that everything is just set up to be a disaster, and it hurts. But the reason it's in my top books is because River is very brave. And also, after the reactions that he gets from Rain, he wants to know because he's a caring person. And honestly, like, there is an assault that happens between these two, and it's bad. Like, it's bad. It's bad. And so that's why, like, you have to have a trigger warning for this, because I read some reviews then, because after I read the author's intro, and she's like, I'm not going to tell you what the trigger warnings are. She's like, you have to trust me. And I know it's not meant with the sarcasm I'm saying it, but as a reviewer, I'm like, I have to tell you, because I kind of want you to read it if those things I've said, if there's something you can handle, because the turn that we see and how this relationship comes about is beautiful to me. And the way that River, the pain that he goes through, but yet is still able to remain compassionate and genuinely wants to help Rain, because he can tell something's happened. He's like, you would not be reacting this way to me because you just are homophobic. Like, something happened to you. And I want our team to be a good team. He's a caring person. He's a leader. And so he puts himself literally in harm's way to try to help this guy. And I really liked it. But I need to tell you, like, the journey you're going to go on, like, it was dark. And it's not an HEA yet, because the second book is supposed to come out in February. So maybe you want to wait till the second one's out and hear what I have to say, because I definitely have pre-ordered. I don't know if it's possible to pre-order, but, like, I'm going to read it. And I needed to tell you all those things. So I just spent a long time talking about Follow the River, but it was worth it. Like, it was really good, because I love male-male romances, and I loved the slow burn and trust building that happened. Okay, cool. All right, the last one I want to talk about is also a difficult one. And this one is a duology. And it's called The Dominant King, or I can't remember, but the first one's called Feral King. And this book was recommended. I saw it on a Virgin Hero list. So this is a Virgin Hero. He's a hermit. He's in his 30s. He is a tattooed, bearded, pierced. I think it was also on Pierced Pecker, because he definitely has a Jacob's Ladder happening. And a Prince Albert. Dude has pierced his dick. There's so much metal in it. He could not fly on an airplane. It's a thing. And he is an artist. He is a blacksmith and, like, metal worker. There's so much sexy about this guy. But he is a virgin. And he's also extremely dominant. Like, he knows that he's dominant because he's watched things happen and he knows that he's into it. But again, trigger warnings for childhood trauma. And so he has a best friend named Rodrigo, who definitely is interested in him. And Severin is the name over here. He's definitely interested back. But they both, like, believe that nothing could happen, because Severin is too damaged by his trauma to, like, let a man be his love. So anyway, that's like a backstory thing. Because then the way this starts out is our heroine, who, what's her name? My name just blanked. What's her name? I forgot what it is. I'm horrible. But she is like 22 years old, just out of college, and she is a companion. She's previously only been companions to old, feeble people, but she gets hired to be Severin's companion and live in his house with him and, like, make sure he eats and takes care of himself and gets social interaction, because his circle of people is very small. It's Rodrigo, his brother, the, like, housekeeper who he looks to as a mother, and then, like, his brother's family. So, like, that's it. He has a very small circle. And so they hire this woman to be his companion, and he starts having, like, dominant tendencies towards her, like ordering her around to do things, because he's a very brusque person anyway. And she has lived as a submissive before. Not lived as, she is a submissive, but she's been in long-term relationships before. So she immediately is, like, pretty turned on by him ordering her around, and he can't figure out why he hasn't scared her away by ordering her around. And that's because she's submissive, so she mostly is just super turned on by this guy ordering her around all the time. And so things escalate pretty quickly between the two of them, and there is some elements that will eventually involve Rodrigo. So I'll say that, because this is a duology. Both of them are out. You need to read them both to get the HEA, but the first book is mostly focused on the Severin and the heroine, with some glimpses at what it could be with Rodrigo. And then the second book is focused on, can the three of them have a relationship together when Severin doesn't want to be touched by a man but has feelings for his friend. So, but he's a virgin hero before her because he doesn't like to be touched. And so for her, because she is a submissive, she's like, well, you can do all the touching to me, like, that's fine. But I loved it because he was definitely, this almost fit into the wild man category because he's literally a little bit feral, like it's called Feral King, and super sexy. I love the metalworking. There is some pretty rough S&M in here. So he is a sexual sadist dominant and she is a submissive masochist. So we're really doing all the letters of BDSM in here. So know that there is, there's knife play, sensory play, piercing. So there's like needle play. Yeah, there's quite a few, but I mean, they all were like pretty sexy because they were happening in like, and she's a masochist, so she really, really likes it. And there we go. So it was just so good, guys. I read both of those. Like, I could not put it down because I love Menage and I love MMF. And I love it when it's dark and twisty like that. And also there was really good communication. Also, because Severin is a virgin, he doesn't like, and even though he has like studied BDSM to some things, like he doesn't know how to be a good dominant right away. And so there are some gaps in that. And I like that. Like, it hurt because as someone, like, I was on the side of the heroine where she's like, you need to do aftercare when you're beating me like this. You can't just leave the room because you're overwhelmed. And I like that there was room for like, hey, like, we'll discuss it. It's okay. You didn't do it on, like, well, I mean, you did the thing to me on purpose, but you didn't abandon me on purpose. You just didn't understand. And I really love stuff like that because so many times when someone gets in a BDSM relationship, it's always the master has been doing it forever. And so it's the submissive who's learning. And so number one, I love when submissives teach their dominance. And number two, I love when a dominant like makes mistakes. I mean, not when they hurt the person, but I like when they make mistakes and then we talk about it. That, because I love communication. Communication's so sexy. So there you go. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this. Keep an eye out for my year-end reading wrap-up and stats. That will be coming in a couple days. And then, yeah, I hope you are enjoying the Bridgerton content that's coming out. I have some wonderful things planned for 2021. And again, thank you to my members. Your support means so much to me and is really helping me to get everything that I need out of YouTube. And I just love you all so much. So have a wonderful day, everyone.